This episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Polestar. There's only one true way to experience the all-electric luxury SUV Polestar 3, and that's to take a test drive. It can go from 0 to 60 in as little as 4.8 seconds with the dynamic handling of a sports car. But to truly understand how it commands the road, you need to be behind the wheel. Up to 350 miles of range, the 3D surround sound system by Bowers & Wilkins. It's all something you have to experience to believe. So book your test drive for Polestar 3 today at polestar.com.
If you went on a road trip and you didn't stop for a Big Mac or drop a crispy fry between the car seats or use your McDonald's bag as a placemat, then that wasn't a road trip. It was just a really long drive. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's.
Hey, business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 110,000 bonus miles for a limited time through July 16th. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends 7/16/25.
Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Stephen Howard, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you, John. Looking forward to having a good, robust conversation with you.
It is a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Mexico City. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about your recent book, Humony Leadership, Mindset, Skills, and Behaviors for Being a Successful People-Centric Leader. And we're going to unpack in a minute what you mean by humony. That's a term, a word that you have coined. And so that'll be interesting in and of itself. But I also really just like the subtitle. And I'm all for this idea of developing our people-centric leadership approach. I think the world needs more of that. So I'm really excited to explore this together with you today. As we get started, I wanted to share Stephen's bio with everybody. Stephen Howard is the award-winning author of 22 leadership, business, and professional development books. His latest book, Humany Leadership, was published in August of 2022. And awarding the book a gold medal, the Nonfiction Authors Association called Humany Leadership a significant work with an important mission. It was also voted the 8th best indie book of 2022 by the readfreely.com and received a bronze medal in the business leadership category from ReaderViews Literary Awards. Stephen was named one of the top 2023 200 global biggest voices in leadership by Leaders Hum Network in recognition of his thought-provoking and leading-edge thinking on leadership. Now, I could go on, Stephen, but I'm going to pause there. Anything else you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
No, I think what might interest your audience is I've spent most of my adult life outside the United States. So I lived and worked in Singapore for 21 years, worked all over Asia from my Singapore base. I then lived in Australia, outside Melbourne, Australia for 12 years. And now I've been the last 3 years in Mexico City. So I have kind of a global perspective that I bring to my writing and to my speeches.
Very, very good. All right. Well, let's go ahead and start by unpacking this word humony. What went into this? What does that word mean to you?
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Well, I was sitting on my balcony watching the sun go down during the pandemic and thinking about how leadership was changing. And I will admit, I had a glass of red wine and right next to me. And I was thinking about, as you said, people-centric leadership, how leadership's going to change coming out of the pandemic. And then I started thinking about harmony. And I felt harmony in my life, I guess, is kind of a peaceful afternoon. And I thought about harmony in the workplace and thought, well, that's probably where we need to get to. So I combined the words humanity, and harmony to create the word humany, and to really emphasize that leaders need to create workplaces of well-being and harmony. So that's the background to it.
I like it. And I like bringing in harmony. I think that's a really important piece. And I guess you've kind of already touched on it as a pandemic exercise, but why this book? Why now? You've written a lot of different books covering a lot of, somewhat related and overlapping topics, but why did you feel this book was so important to push out now?
The people I was coaching, John, during the pandemic were getting frustrated, and I was coaching a lot of middle managers, and they were getting frustrated with their more senior managers, and they just didn't feel like they were being treated with the right level of respect or the right level of trust working from home. But they just I just realized that the way we managed and led people, and I'm one of them. I'm a baby boomer. The way I led my team in the 1990s and the early 2000s just wouldn't work today, and particularly with the younger generation. So I just started focusing on this need to change people's mindsets. And I guess the heart of the book, if you want, and where this came from, was my thinking that we manage projects, we manage processes, we manage procedures, we manage policies, we manage things, but we don't manage people anymore. No one wakes up in the morning and says, I can't wait to be managed by my boss today. And certainly no one says, I'm looking forward to being micromanaged today. So all this kind of came together in my head, and thinking that, well, we need to change the way we lead people. We don't manage people, we lead people, we lead human beings. And that's where this all came together.
Yeah, well, excellent. And I completely agree. I mean, I've seen a lot of that over the years, but particularly during the pandemic, things that people might have been willing to kind of put up with previously, they just decided no more. They kind of reprioritized. They took a good hard look, and they challenged assumptions. And I think many people just realized, where I've been working, how I've been working, the type of leadership that I've been working under, that doesn't resonate with me. That's not effective. And people just said no more. And that's partly why you saw the Great Resignation occurring, and some of those types of trends that got a lot of media attention. In some cases, it just got dismissed as, like Gen Z and millennial entitled workers or whatever. I'm like, maybe for some people, but largely it was just everyone across all generational cohorts saying enough is enough, and we expect more, and life is short, and I'm not going to commute 2 hours each way, and I'm not going to be micromanaged, etc. And ultimately, I think that's a healthy development, but it does put the pressure on, especially kind of the old school type of leadership approach and style that many people kind of grew up in their career with. They may not even know any different way, because a lot of times we find ourselves in leadership positions with no real leadership training. We just get promoted, and eventually, we have good technical expertise, and eventually we get promoted into a role where we're overseeing people and we're expected to lead. And that's not the same skill set as, being a good coder or a good salesperson or a good whatever. Like, all the different things that might lead to us getting that promotion doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be good in that new leadership position. So what do people do? They do the best they can. They mimic what they've seen before. Those sorts of things often, though, lead to the perpetuation of stereotypes, toxic leadership approaches, and some of those things that even they probably would say, oh, I don't like working for that kind of person, but they don't know any different way, right? And so we fall into the same traps over and over again.
Yeah, and they manage people because they've been managed all their life, and they give feedback that's ineffective because the feedback that they've always been given has been poorly delivered and is ineffective. And as you say, it just continues to cascade. I wrote the book hoping to change people's minds. And to me, leadership is a mindset. And if you can change that mindset that, hey, I'm not going to, there are times to manage people. I'm not saying you never manage, but you need to have that leadership hat on more often than that management hat on. And that's a mindset change of how you approach leadership.
Yeah. So you touched on this kind of, the pandemic was a catalyst. It kind of accelerated us into not only a shift towards disruptive technologies and their usage, but also a shift in leadership approach, bigger emphasis on empathetic leadership, really making sure that we're connecting with our people. Beyond major disruptions, though, like the pandemic, like AI, what would you say are generally the main critical problems that are facing leaders today?
Trust. There's such a lack of trust in the workplace, and it's a two-way street too. Employees don't trust their bosses, and bosses don't trust their employees, and that's one of the reasons so many people want to, rush everyone back to the workplace because, well, I can't see what they're doing. I don't trust them, and I always ask, well, why did you hire them? If you don't trust them, why did you hire them in the first place? Why do you have a team of people you don't trust? That's number one. Well-being in the workplace. I mean, was listening to some HR people talk on a webinar, maybe 6 weeks, 2 months ago, and they said, and this is different industries, one of their biggest issues is drama in the workplace and mid-managers. And as you said, exactly what you just said, people are being promoted into positions without the training, and they don't know how to resolve conflict in the workplace. They don't know how to do so without showing favoritism. They don't know how to do so without themselves getting frustrated and basically adding fuel to the fire of the drama in the workplace, and how to turn drama into collaboration. So, those things are all hitting at the same time, combined with what you just referenced, people's views on what role work plays in their lives has changed too. And people, particularly the older generation, just can't understand that. They can't grasp it. And then they make those stereotypes. Well, the younger generation, they just don't work hard anymore. They're not interested, or they're not loyal. Well, why would you be loyal to a company that's showing no loyalty to you? But again, it's a two-way street.
Yeah, that's the thing is, and not only, I mean, I'm in the same space as you, so I talk about this kind of stuff all the time, and I'm a professor. I teach this and do research on this sort of stuff at the university. And so, I have I would say bias, but I think it's a well-informed, data-informed bias that, in fact, a lot of the moaning around the younger generation is ill-conceived. Like it's really a bit silly. But I have anecdotal evidence. I am a father of 6 children. My 2 oldest are in college. My 3 oldest work. And so I have, they're all kind of on the older Gen Z side. I just see my kids, they don't have patience. They know better. They know what is reasonable. In part, that's my fault, because they'll come home and say, Dad, is it okay for them to do this? And I'll say, no, that's not okay. I'll explain why that's a problem, whatever. So maybe I'm adding fuel to the fire of their discontent, but there are so many employers, not that it's necessarily intentional, that people, I don't think most people wake up in the morning trying to think how they're going to exploit their workers, but there are plenty of people, especially, those who employ teenagers and young adults, who see them as expendable, who see them as, they can kind of do whatever. And the stories that I can tell that my kids have passed along to me from like really good, reputable companies that everyone would know and recognize, that often have pretty good reputations, yet the way things are handled and the way they get treated by their leaders in those organizations often is pretty reprehensible. And so like I have one daughter who just recently quit a job and started another job. And, someone could look at her and say, oh, she's not willing to pay her dues. She's not willing to put in the hard work. I'm like, no, she's really smart. She's a hard worker. She's always been a hard worker. She's just not willing to put up with crap, and she knows better. So, I mean, so part of it is, are we willing to put up with stuff, or are we going to set boundaries, and are we going to know our worth and then go find opportunities that are in alignment with our values and with what we know our worth is? And I applaud my daughter for doing that, because she knows her worth and she knows what she's capable of. She knows how she should be treated, and she knows when someone's not doing that, and she's going to go find another opportunity. And frankly, I tell that to my students. I want my students to do that too. I hope that they will do that. So what that means, though, for leaders is that we have to do a better job of getting trained, of staying current, of making sure that we're understanding where people are coming from, that we don't just dismiss concerns that people have because, we label it as, oh, this younger entitled generation, or whatever the label may be, or whatever the stereotype may be, that we're not so dismissive, but that we actually pay attention to the things people are talking about and the feedback that we're receiving, just like we would hope that they would be paying attention to the feedback that we give to them.
Totally agree. I think one of the silver linings of the pandemic was that we started to realize that people have responsibilities outside the workplace. We've always talked about work-life balance, and oh yeah, you can have a life as long as you get your work done, as long as you put in your 60 hours or 50 hours a week and get everything done. Yeah, I'm sure, go ahead and have, go do things. But there's a difference now. Again, a mindset change. People have responsibilities, whether it's for their elderly parents, whether it's for their school children. Maybe they volunteer in their community. Maybe they coach a youth sports team, but that's a responsibility. I mean, I coached a boys basketball team many years ago for probably 4 years, and that I felt that was a responsibility. I had to show up at practice on time. I had to make sure I scheduled the court. Those are responsibilities. Well, if we understand that as leaders, somebody has that responsibility, let's help them achieve that responsibility and also get their work done. They'll be more loyal. We'll be more understanding of them, of their needs. I mean, I often tell a story. My first job was in Texas, and I'd probably been on the job 8 months or 9 months, and I went to my boss, and I was like 20. Actually, I was 20 years old. And I said, I need to be away from the office on Thursday afternoon. I have a dentist appointment. And he looked at me and said, what's wrong? Your dentist doesn't work on Saturday? I'm going, my tooth is hurting. I mean, I don't want to wait till Saturday. And just that attitude, admittedly, it was, the 1980s, but that attitude is you don't take work off unless it's an emergency. And if you can wait till Saturday to see your dentist, you wait. And so people don't do that today. I mean, people understand, again, harmony. How do I harmonize my life between my personal responsibilities and my work responsibilities? And if I need to go to the dentist, I should be able to go to the dentist without having to, fill out triple forms and submit it for approval.
Sure. And what have you found to be some of the best ways to promote that kind of harmony, to bring the humanity back into organizations, into teams? How do we, foster that people-centric approach and have that harmony while also, we still got to get stuff done. We have to hold people accountable. The work still needs to get done. It needs to get done well, high quality. We still need to have innovation, productivity, efficiency. All of that needs to happen. And we're not suggesting that's not the case, that all that needs to happen. But how can, and so I suppose there's a tension, because a lot of people will say the two are just incompatible. If you're focusing on bottom line results, then going to the dentist in the middle of the day is distracting and it's taking away from your productivity. I just don't see it that way. I don't see it as, conflicting elements. I see it as, ultimately you can provide accommodations and you can give people the opportunity and support to do good work while meeting their needs. And in some cases, it feels like to me, like people, like you said earlier, people are going to be more loyal when they're treated that way. They're going to be happier. They're going to get whatever that pressing, stressful thing is, they're going to get it done so that they don't have to worry about it. It's not in the back of their head, slowing them down during the workday. So in my mind, it's a no-brainer. Yet I still, even today in 2024, I run into people all the time who still kind of have that old school mentality. So what would you say to them? Like, how do you start this process of bringing that harmony and the humanity back into what they're doing?
That's what we have to do, John. We have to talk about it. We have to, and companies I go into, the people I coach, when I go and work with organizations around this topic, is like, let's talk about it. Let's talk, what does harmony mean? And it's going to be different for every company, and maybe even different for certain departments within the same company. So people have to be talking about it. They have to be open. Leaders have to be a little bit more humble. One of the things about today's world is, and as you mentioned, some of these disruptive technologies happening, we can't be experts in everything anymore. We can't have all the answers as a leader. So it's okay for a leader, in my opinion, to say, hey, team, I'm not quite sure what the path is we should be on to accomplish this, but I have confidence in us as a team to figure it out. So let's sit down and let's talk about it. Let's figure out what we need to do. And the other thing is, again, a mindset change. In most jobs today, I would say most, we should be paying people to produce results, not to put in time. So as long as they, again, are achieving those results. Well, I know there's exceptions. I mean, if you're in McDonald's, yes, you have to have people working shifts. If you're manufacturing, you can't really have too much flexibility time. If you're on a manufacturing line and everyone has to work together, like a car line, the guy who's doing the bumper installation, he can't just take 2 hours off necessarily, unless you got a replacement for him. So this is not a one solution fits all type thing. But in all cases, we can learn how to be more people-centric and how to treat people as human beings. And one of the comments I often tell people or make to people is like, look, 94, 95, 93, some percent, whatever the numbers is, but it's going to be in the low 90s, will put in the effort. They will perform. And what do you want to focus on? The 6% who don't, or the 3% who don't? Or do you want to focus on those 94, 93, 95, whatever it happens to be? If you focus on those who are going to operate, everyone else will work themselves out of a job, or you can let them go. You can, the euphemism, make them available to industry. But why constantly focus on that 4, 5, 6% of people who will take advantage? And people, some people will. But you let everyone work from home, there will be 4% who will say, you know what, I'm going to watch a movie today. I'm going to binge on a Netflix series today, and I'm going to find a cheat device for my computer. It makes it look like I'm online and typing stuff, so my boss is monitoring my computer. You want to focus on that? Or do you want to focus on the 95% who said, okay, I'll get my job done. I may have to work till 7 o'clock today to get it done, but that's because I went and coached a basketball team for an hour and a half this afternoon. So it's a mindset change. You want a well-being harmonize? Just talk about it. It's not hard to do.
Yeah. And in my experience, you mentioned whatever that percentage is, 6%, 5%, 8%, whatever, that, often will try to do some sort of taking advantage or kind of doing the minimum or quiet quitting or, whatever. There will be a portion that do that. But when you focus in only on that group, guess what? You expand that group.
Exactly.
So now instead of like the 4% that might do that, that'll end up working themselves out of a job anyways, because they're not going to perform. So if you're focused on performance and you're focused on results, they're not going to have the results. They'll be gone soon anyways. But what you end up doing when you are punitive and you have that compliance-based culture is you grow that population from maybe 4%. Now you have 25% of your workforce that's feeling disenfranchised, disengaged, they're frustrated, they're quiet quitting, they're looking for the next job, and so you're totally shooting yourself in the foot when that's your approach. Yet that is the predominant kind of approach that I see in most organizations. And in fact, I look at that and I'm like, why do you do that when it's so dumb, like objectively stupid from a research standpoint, from a practical standpoint to do that, yet people do that. So why? Because the trust isn't there, because they don't know how to do any different. There's
It's
probably a
that
variety
mindset
of
that we're
reasons.
paying people for their hours. I mean, your
Yeah,
profession, John, has forever has been the one that epitomizes this. University professors, you got to show up at class. But if your dean comes around and you're not there in between class in your office, you're being micromanaged. And I'm sure there are some professors who, they don't have class on Tuesday afternoon, go play golf. But maybe that's because they spend their Sundays doing course curriculum. So they do their research
right.
for their thesis, or they grade their papers on their own time. But your industry is the epitome of if you have the right level of trust, I'm sure all the professors will come in and teach and do a good job. And if you start making people stay in their office in between classes, even if they have no classes on Tuesday, they have to show up in their office. I think you'll start seeing some higher turnover on your faculty.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has just been a really great conversation, Stephen. I note the time. I'm going to have to let you go here in just a minute. But before we wrap things up for today, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, where they can find your book, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Okay, thanks. LinkedIn, if a profession you want to reach me, it's LinkedIn, Stephen Howard. There's several. Look for the one in Greater Los Angeles area. The books are all on Amazon. The last couple books have been in audiobook as well for the first time. I now have 2 audiobooks, but everything I write's in print edition and in the Kindle format edition. And you want to email me if you have a question, if I can help you out, it's a Stephen with a V and an N, as you see on the screen there, at Humony Leadership.com. And that's probably the easiest way to reach out to me or contact me through LinkedIn. And my final thought, which again leads into your profession a little bit, but it's one of my deepest beliefs, is I just encourage everyone to never stop learning, because life never stops teaching.
Amen to that. I totally believe in that as well. Thank you so much, Stephen. A great conversation. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Stephen can do for you. Check out the book. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.